I think my favorite one was this one, which showed San Alman with 3 Aadhaar cards and triplicates, standing in a line, calling for the application of OpenAI.
I think rather than LLM, in India, we should focus on MEME creation. Okay.
Good evening and welcome to yet another edition of Thinkly Talks, a place where we are in conversation with some wonderful people from around the world. And today, we are back in Jaspreet's community, Plurality Dialogues, after a week-long break. So Jaspreet, great to have you back. Welcome.
Thank you so much. Sorry, last time, at this time, I was in a flight and then in places where I wasn't sure whether Zoom would work, so I had to miss last week, but great to be back.
Likewise. And so how was Dubai and how was your whole travel over the last, let's say, 7-10 days?
Well, when I tell people why I went to Dubai, they get mystified. I was speaking at something called the World Sugar Conference. It is, AI pops up at the most unlikeliest of places. And commodities and including sugar is actually a huge area for this technology. So it was interesting to kind of be amongst people who trade in billions of dollars and to see how AI can help them, among a few other things. So that's where I was there.
Fascinating. I think this is going to be the theme of the way things are going to roll out, right? As AI going to touch us in more and more places than we even imagine, right? So I think, Jaspreet, today, we are back to a very, very interesting topic, which is really about AI, and the road to singularity. But like last time, let's just maybe spend around 8-10 minutes on what happened over the last 2 weeks since you went there in the last week, and then we can then go down this topic, right? So let me quickly share my screen, and here we go. So, so today really we just trying to touch upon, and I picked up 3. Like you said, there's so much happening in the world of AI. I just picked up 3 things. So one is really about AI in jobs. Now, you and I had a wonderful chat, I think, on 26th of Feb, and then this was dropped on 27th of Feb, just literally the day after, where really the Klarna AI assistant, which is based on ChatGPT, it talked about how it's now in a position to replace, let's say, around 700 customer service agents, right? And these are things that you touched upon, but, just with any reactions, any thoughts?
Well, this Klarna thing was a bit of a bombshell. They said that, as it's written, 2/3 of conversations had moved to an AI bot based on an OpenAI technology. It was doing the work of an equivalent of 700 full-time agents. So that's 700 jobs lost in a way.
Yeah.
Very interestingly, 2 more statistics. It led to a 25% drop in repeat queries. So it was getting right the first time, many times, more than humans. And the average resolution time was 2 minutes rather than 11 minutes for humans.
Right.
And such more things. Frankly, first reaction was jaw-dropping, but Vivek, my second reaction was too good to be true.
Yeah.
Okay. And actually, if you and I didn't do this, but many people actually called up Klarna to get to the board to see what was. Well, a couple of things. One is Klarna is going IPO. Okay.
Yeah.
And so their stock is not doing, their numbers are not doing very well. And so one way to think about this is it was very timely, this kind of thing. But I think net, what turned out was that some of it was true, okay, but a lot of it was kind of, a lot of made up figures in some sense, okay?
Right.
Because they kind of made it up in very clever ways. But whatever, even if, frankly, half of this is true, that's an amazing scale use case that we have seen. And yes, it does mean that contact center agents should be a little scared. Last thing, Vivek, I would say is that when we did our jobs discussion, I think I did talk about the fact that 3 areas, contact centers, creative arts, and software engineering programmers. I think those are the 3 areas where there will be maximum impact. And this is clearly one of them.
Yeah. What a paradox. I mean, like we've always seen that the people who are in all the other industrial, what should I say, revolution, is the people at the bottom of the pyramid who seem to be getting impacted. This time it's really coming after the creators, right? So to say.
Yeah.
So
it's a cognitive technology. So,
Right. Absolutely. Right. In fact, when you were talking about the IPO, it reminded me of the whole, the boom that happened towards the late 80s and early 90s, right? Because every time somebody announced that, they're going for a ERP or they're going for I2 supply chain, the stock ticker would just run up a bit, right? Just a simple announcement. And I guess we're just seeing a replay of that happening with AI, right?
Yeah.
But moving along, I think something that was very interesting that kind of came up around 2 weeks back was the announcement of the India's AI regulation. It came up first in the form of advisory, and then there was a whole lot of confusion whether this was meant that whether this would really be targeted at startups, whether it would really mean eventually a regulation. So I think there was a lot of confusion around that, right? And in fact, there was an interesting tweet by Aaron Levy, who's the CEO of Box. He said this is the reason why America will eventually win with AI, because rest of the world seems to be caught up in all kind of wrangles around that. And very interestingly, Jaspreet, you had actually pointed this out, I think around 6 months back. When you talked about when the executive order of the US came on AI, you tweeted that watch the space as India and other countries will also roll this out, right? So some thoughts from you on that. That would be great.
Sure. Look, I don't think this was a thought out decision. I think this was clearly a knee-jerk decision because of certain slanderous, if I may say so, or
positive,
not very positive comments on the Prime Minister by Gemini.
That's right.
Which, as you know, I mean, it's a large language model, so it'll pick up stuff from the web, etc. And it was more of a knee-jerk thing, combined with the fact that elections are coming and the fear of deepfakes, etc. And the fact that it was knee-jerk was very apparent because, there was a pullback, immediately, a couple of days later. And my comment in this, in fact, the Economic Times or one of these newspapers, was that, we definitely need guardrails and guidelines and regulation, but it has to be proactive, not reactive. So you need to tell people, look, this is what you can do, this is what you can't do. And so people who are building the models will build it that way. China is doing that. Now, whether their guidelines are right or wrong is up for debate. But they have clearly laid out, you can do this, you cannot do this. And so their models are being built. But to build a model and then send it for checking, it is not what it, I mean, the amount of money and compute and resources and time it takes to build these models, no one is going to build a model if someone is going to check on it. So, and what I said was that if they do a proactive policy, in fact, it will be very welcome. It will be amongst the first in the world, and it needs to be. But a reactive one, no. And I think that's what there was a pullback, and I don't think it's really going to be enforced, in my opinion.
Right. I think also a lot of time what they do is they test the waters by just throwing something out there, seeing the reaction. It's sometimes it may not be as what should I say, casual as you think it might be. But yeah, I mean, we'll have to see how this pans out. But as always, I think any of this thing leads to some amazing memes, and I think my favorite one was this one, which showed Sam Altman with 3 Aadhaar cards and triplicates, standing in a line, filing for the application of OpenAI. So,
I think rather than LLM, in India, we should focus on MEME creation. Okay. We are very good at creating memes. And this one had some good ones. I did see this one. This is very cool.
And then, of course, last week, I mean, you can't have a week go by without Elon and, of course, Sam Altman being at the center of this. And this is when, you had, OpenAI, Elon Musk really, suing OpenAI out there, and Altman, and I think Microsoft also, right? Obviously the whole thing is quite interesting because his biggest contention is the fact that here you have, a model which was initially supposed to be for profit. So you kind of get all these tax dollars, pre-tax dollars that are coming in the form of donations. And then you suddenly decide to make the company, for profit, right? So Elon had this whole, issue with that. And there obviously were some more mails dropped by OpenAI shortly after that saying that actually Elon himself wanted to kind of, make this a for-profit company because the amount of billions of dollars that he anticipated might be required would just not be enough. So Jaspreet, any thoughts on these?
Vivek, would love to know yours also, but it's again one of those things, when Elon brought out this lawsuit, he's been threatening to do that for a while now. And when he did that, I think the sympathies lay with him. Because clearly, I mean, OpenAI was created as one open. So, they no longer now disclose their models, which they said they would, and two non-profit, which it clearly isn't at this point of time. And so, he said that, I've just given charity, it was just like, whatever. And, So the sympathies lay with him. But but when OpenAI released the entire mail trails with Elon Musk and very powerful people writing it, I mean, Sam Altman
Right.
writing, Ed Bachman writing it, very important, very interestingly, Ilya Sutskever, who's supposed to be a Musk confidant and, was
Right.
recruited,
Right.
also in, writing that and writing some mails to him, which
Yeah.
clearly showed two things. One, that Elon himself was in agreement that it will require billions of dollars and therefore the structure would need to be changed. And two, that the definition of open is not really open as in the algorithm is open for everyone or it's
Right.
open source, but it's open to be used by everyone in the world.
Right.
I think he was caught wrong-footed on that. And then obviously what you have just put here in terms of the Tesla part and taking control part. And he therefore reverted back to typical Elon, and he's now trying to squirm his way out by saying that if OpenAI changes its name to Closed AI, I will drop the suit, the
Yeah.
lawsuit.
Right.
I mean, much like, frankly, our earlier discussion of the announcement of, check your LLM. I think this
Yeah.
also be a big damp squib. But I think
Yeah.
as a meta point, Vivek, I think well, all this, AI is not only becoming a powerful technology, but all of these, these tech bros acting in this way is actually becoming quite a lot of entertainment for
Yeah.
the world. Okay,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
not just tech now. There's so much of, and Elon, in fact, said in a very famous interview to the BBC when BBC asked him, "Why do you do this and why do you do that or whatever?" He said, "Aren't you being entertained?" Okay. Which
Yeah.
is sad, but we're becoming an entertainment economy. So
Right. Right.
that's
I
enough of
agree.
it.
Yeah. And I think again the memes. I mean, I think we have to be living in a simulation when billionaires fight with each other using memes, and this is one of them that actually shows. He's being pulled over, and he's saying that's an old photo because that's OpenAI. It's now closed AI, right? But I think obviously I think this is going to be picked up by SEC and other guys because I think there have been some implication on taxation and all that stuff. I think which anyway it's for the billionaires to sit around and figure it out. But moving along, Jaspreet, really, I think today we have a very interesting, lineup in that sense. So, Jaspreet, I think the topic really for today's discussion is really about AI and the part towards singularity, right? Now, in many ways, this is a very, very, what should I say, nuanced and difficult to kind of, get our head around because the definition of AGI, some people keep saying, has been a moving goalpost, right? In fact, some experts say that, listen, if in 2005, you let's say shown ChatGPT 3.5 itself, people would have said that this is AGI. The level of, the detailing, the kind of conversations you're able to have, that's fascinating. And then some other people say that, listen, just training a neural network to help you predict the next word in a sentence is hardly AGI, right? So, so what really do you think is a good definition for AGI and how is it different from artificial narrow intelligence?
Good point, Vivek. And in fact, that was how start to say, have we achieved AGI or not? So first of all, let's kind of define singularity and AGI.
Yeah.
Okay. So AGI is artificial general intelligence, which has as many definitions as the people defining them. Okay.
Yep.
So everyone has a different definition. It became as well. So singularity is the time period at which point of is the time when humans will or rather computers will become more intelligent than human beings, and therefore AGI would have been achieved. And I think singularity, the word, was popularized most while it was initially brought up by Van Neumann, and the original inspiration for that was the singularity before the Big Bang.
Yeah.
Before the Big Bang happened to create the universe, everything was singularity, one point. Maybe we talk about it, but there are interesting connotations of it in Indian philosophy also. But we'll
Yes.
keep that aside. But then while Van Neumann brought it up for the first time in the AI context, it's Ray Kurzweil, the futurist, who made it famous by his book called The Singularity is Near. And in fact, then created Singularity University out of the Bay Area with Peter Diamandis, where I went and learned, and now I'm a faculty at. So I'm kind of close to Singularity in many ways. And he, in his first book, had said that it will be between 2039 and 2042, if I remember.
Right.
Now, he had defined AGI, if I remember, as the time when AI will become more capable or more intelligent than all human beings, not one human being. See, that's the core
Right.
difference.
Mhm.
Okay, it will become more intelligent than you or me. Okay, but all human beings, all brains on the world is kind of a different deal altogether.
Right.
And that's the problem. The definition of AGI is completely, as I said, there are as many definitions as the people defining them. Uh, and so what has happened is now people have, in a sense, it's become a moving target, as you said. Initially, the thing was if it passes the Turing test, we've created AGI. And for people who are not aware of the Turing test, Alan Turing, you put a machine in one room, a human in another room, and they're talking to each other on what messenger or mail or whatever. And if the human cannot figure out that the other thing is a machine, then the machine is as intelligent as the human. The Turing test, frankly, has been passed with the ChatGPT in many ways. And so
Correct.
now people are redefining the Turing test. Okay. And so AGI is a moving target. And now people are saying there's not only AGI or artificial narrow intelligence, which is one thing it can do, play chess, play Go. AlphaGo, DeepMind's program kind of made sure it could play anything. So it had become general. But now people are even talking of ASI, which is artificial superintelligence, beyond artificial general intelligence. So the final thing I would say is that you're right. If ChatGPT, many people when they do ChatGPT, they think it's happened already. We are already there. And in fact, right after generative AI, our friend Ray Kurzweil is writing his next book, which says the singularity is nearer.
Right.
Okay, so he's kind of pulled up the. So yeah, so we don't really know because we don't really know the definition yet.
No, so the event horizon definitely seems to be coming closer as we think about singularity in that sense. But from you, Jaspreet, really, what do you think is going to help us achieve that singularity or AGI? And we can use that word very, very, interchangeably in that sense, right? Is it going to be eventually, and I'm just using a very reductionist, approach. Is it going to be more about more compute power? Is it going to be about more, a parameter that the LLM is trained on? Let's say, for example, let's say GPT-4 is trained apparently on 1.75 trillion parameters, or is it going to be on a larger data set? And I think therein we have a problem because pretty much the entire data set has been consumed. So is it going to be one of these three things that's suddenly going to lead to an AGI, or is it going to be something completely different dimension, like something like consciousness, which is going to be a completely different rabbit hole?
Lots I can say on this, Vivek, but
please take your time. I think this is very interesting. Yeah.
So let me just set a reductionist view. Okay. And there's the ABC of singularity. Okay. And you mentioned all three, but A is for algorithm, and B is for, say, big data. Okay. And C is compute. Okay. So far, we've been following this approach where there's been a step improvements in all of these, A, B, and C. So the big, massive step change in the algorithm has been when transformers have gotten created. Okay, transformers are an algorithm. And vision algorithms have gotten created, which can detect vision, Fei and all the ImageNet stuff, etc. Now, we have, I think, from the algorithms of 20 years back to today, there's like 1,000x, 10,000x more powerful algorithms with transformers, etc. But more than that has been the data. Okay. And, we are at a situation today where for GPT 3.5 or 4, OpenAI downloaded the entire internet. And I'm not joking. They downloaded the entire. You and I can do so, except we need slightly larger hard drives. Okay. But and that's kind of the sum and summation of all our data. There is data beyond that. Okay, there's data in the quote unquote dark net. There is data sitting in the servers of hundreds of thousands of corporations worldwide. There is data sitting behind the walls of Quora and of Reddit and few others who have not opened out their data. So maybe Reddit has, but many others who haven't opened up. So there's still more data. Okay, so sure. Okay, we can bring even more data. And then the third, which is obviously everyone knows, is compute, where probably there has been the most progress. Okay, where, from low compute environments, we have gone to the NVIDIA GPUs and clusters of GPUs and AI supercomputers and things like that.
Mm.
So the original thought was, and still is in many quarters, is that you build do more of A, do more of B, do more of C. And one day, you'll reach that tipping point where suddenly, AGI will happen. And interestingly, that's how organic life happened in many ways.
Mm.
Okay, when the temp, with all the right ingredients when they came up on Earth as the planet was being created, no one knows how that primordial soup happened, but it happened. However, now most scientists, including Sam Altman, okay, and others, Jeffrey Hinton, I think too, are saying that we have maxed out this ABC paradigm.
Mm.
Okay, it's a though before I stop the ABC paradigm, I encourage people interested in AGI and Singularity to look at the video called Sparks of AGI.
Yeah.
And there's a big dense paper behind it, which basically says that something is happening, we don't know what. Okay, and there are things happening within the GPT-4 black box that cannot be explained away by this autocomplete thing.
Right.
Okay, and that actually reminds one of the primordial soup through which life happened. That is, something is happening which we don't know what.
Right.
So maybe there is something there, but most people have moved away from that. And Sam Altman, for example, says, he said it funnily in IIT Delhi when he was here. Okay, that a new law of physics might need to happen, for example. Okay, so
Mm.
to kind of reach that level, or as you said, some kind of consciousness would need to happen, or emotion would need to happen for that AGI to get created. So what it is, we don't know, but people. Gary Marcus, who's also another writer, he says he's very clear. It's not going to happen by just big data, big compute, etc. We'll have to
Mm.
have a combination of this neural networks, which drive the large language models, and what is called symbolic AI, which is rule-based AI, which used to
Mm.
happen earlier. And so maybe that's another route. So there are many routes through which singularity can happen. But I'm not sure whether it's the right, even the right goal to go towards. Why do we even want singularity?
Right. But that's interesting. I mean, Jaspreet, you saying why do we want singularity? Because I've largely seen you as a major optimist when it comes towards AI and discovery on AI. So why would you even make that statement? Just to get your thoughts
I
around
made
that.
it very deliberately, actually, so that you ask. Okay. Uh, but it's interesting. All these companies, DeepMind, OpenAI, X.AI, they are all been created saying that we have all been created to achieve singularity and to achieve it in a way which is beneficial to humankind.
Right.
Okay, that's their stated objective. When people ask some of these guys, the optimists, as to the dangers of artificial intelligence, they come back with this thing saying that we need more intelligence in this world. There's lots of stupidity, and we need more intelligence. And so, the more the intelligence, the better it is. Okay, and so it's good to have AGI and ASI and everything. What makes me a little bit of a skeptic, okay, is not my skepticism towards AI as a technology, but a growing skepticism of the people who are creating it.
Mm.
Uh, we talked about some of their shenanigans a little earlier,
Yeah.
okay, and they're almost like man childs, okay, who
True.
are kind of actually creating the single most powerful technology on earth. And
Mm.
my issue is that, are they the right people to build this, and
Right.
are they doing it the right way, and are they including the right set of
Mm.
people who would work together? So my skepticism, Vivek, is with us. Okay, I'll conclude. A lot of them. So let's take OpenAI as an example. They're Ilya Sutskever, actually, or Greg Brockman, one of the two, kind of heads up what is called alignment
Mhm.
function, that. And in AI, we have this thing called the alignment problem, right? Everyone wants the right alignment. And alignment basically means that the values of AI should be aligned with the values of human beings. My problem is, what are the values of human beings? Okay,
Absolutely.
we are certainly not aligned with each other. We have a new war every few months, including the war between Musk and Altman, but even bigger wars. Okay, we have such polarized opinion, which is keeping on getting more and more polarized, and so there's no set of human values which AI should be aligned with in that sense,
Right.
and that's where my skepticism lies.
Right. I wonder if you've read this book by Mo Godward, Scary Smart. And he basically Goddard talks about the three inevitables of AI. He said, A, there will be a race towards AI because the prisoner's dilemma ensures that the companies, the tech giants, the nation states are going to compete for that. Second thing, he says it's a given that whether you want to call it AGI or not, eventually they will be much smarter, far more intelligent than the average human being. And the third thing that he really talks about is the fact that eventually bad things are going to happen. There's going to be some misalignment. And, I think that really is the big question that it comes about. And I think we're moving now more towards the ethical point of it, which I can see you grappling with that, right? Because, for example, I think in 2018 or 15, when Elon Musk had a big argument with Larry Page over the future of AI and the future of humanity, Elon obviously was at that point in time, and forget about whatever's coming out through Discovery right now, but Elon at that time really said that, listen, you can't really have something which is going to make, humanity at stake, right? Put it at risk. And finally, I think Larry Page just got exasperated and said, listen, stop being a speciesist. Actually, the correct, I think, term is speciesist, but that's what he told him. And I think really, to really have some of the tech billionaires, these, boys out there, in the candy shop, they're shopping for the next big thing. I think it's really putting a lot at stake for humanity. And what do you have to say to that, Jaspreet?
No, I agree. I think we are, in a sense, agreeing. So I've not read the Mo Goddard book. It's in the list of books. It's then there in my Kindle and books to read. I bought it, but I haven't read it. But,
Right.
As you mentioned, the three things that he said, again, one of the ways that I only have lately realized in my life is that history is the best predictor of the future. As they say that even if it doesn't repeat itself, it often rhymes. Okay. And so you go back into history, and many times what knocks sense into human beings is when something really bad happens. Okay. In fact, in other places, I've argued that just because all of us have suddenly become very comfortable, no war for the last 80 years or big war, or, no big, cataclysm, except COVID to a small extent. It's not as COVID was nowhere as big as what the big cataclysms were. We've gotten too comfortable. And so if you kind of go back, you see, why there has been no war after the Second World War. The big cataclysm was obviously all the deaths and the Holocaust. Okay, and suddenly Europe, which always used to be at war with each other until recently, was that we just don't want to do any more war. Or if you think of the nuclear bomb and the nuclear energy, it was Hiroshima, Nagasaki, and it's only when they saw that the untold destruction that the world moved away from there, and now they've forgotten it and are moving back. And so, in some sense, unfortunately, I do think that even with AI, I'm hoping that we don't need a massive cataclysm for people to realize and do things the right way. But history at least shows us that possibly there would be a big event of some kind. Cambridge Analytica was too small an event. Okay,
Right.
big event of some kind. And I guess that's what, in some sense, without reading the book, is what Mo Goddard is saying in another way. And it's that event that I fear. Okay, whatever that might be. I don't think that event will be an artificial superintelligence coming and exterminating human beings. But I think the event would be either a huge sabotage of elections and democracy in a large country or several large countries, or it could be the use of lethal autonomous weapons, AI-based weapons, which kind of cause untold destruction.
Right.
But and so, as I'm fond of saying, to conclude again, Vivek, as I'm fond of saying, AI will not take your job, but someone using AI will. I also do believe that AI will not kill you, but a human using AI could. Okay, and
Right,
so,
right, right.
so
No, and I think the videos that are coming out of drones being programmed in a few just to kind of pursue people. Currently, the what we've seen really happening with Boston Dynamics and robotics out there. I mean, we're just looking at a future which is going to be very, very unpredictable in that sense, right? And the chat out here is really lit with so many questions, especially around this whole topic of ethics and all. I'll just try and conflate a few of these questions. So there's one question uh, by Rashike, and there's by Aniket and Shyam. Like, it says, how do you really think about, how can we ensure that, it's a given that AI is going to develop. It's a given that it's going to keep looking at it. But how do we really ensure that there eventually is going to be, what should I say, alignment of the values? Because are we anticipating an AGI, something along the lines of the atomic energy, regulation? What's really going to happen out there?
okay. So the good news is, and why I'm an optimist, net, I'm a little optimist at the end, is that I do believe that human beings will muddle through this. But the verb I've used is muddle through. Okay. We're not going to go through this cleanly. Okay. We'll kind of muddle through. We'll make mistakes, we'll do some good things, some bad things. But why do I say this? I say this because this is the only technology after nuclear technology where the inventors of the technology itself are asking for regulation. Okay, and it's the only technology where countries, regulators, regional groupings, corporations have been proactive in thinking about framing and bringing about guidelines, principles, and to an extent regulation. Okay, to make this happen. With social media, we never did that. Yeah, and look at the mess that we've landed into. But in this case, I think people have been, I mean, that part of the world also has been, the ethics part has kind of tried to keep pace with the speed at which the technology is going. And people are rightly worried about it. And so I think, therefore, I'm an optimist that we'll kind of build some, so that those cataclysmic events, etc., do not happen. When people ask me, and maybe the two people who asked it, they ask me, should my child, my daughter, my child, should she or he try ChatGPT? And I'm like, sure, but just keep her away from Instagram. Okay. That's quite telling. Okay, that we have, this is still clean. This is still has some guardrails, some regulation, something built in right from the beginning. And so I'm hoping, therefore, I'm being an optimist there, and hoping, therefore, that it will be muddled through.
Right. There was an interesting presentation, I think, by Ray Dalio, where he talked about the regulatory capture. And he pointed out that the people who are now asking for regulation is Meta in social media. The people who are asking for regulation in AI is now OpenAI. Because you know what? These guys have actually torn through the whole innovation that has to be done. And now they're setting up their own little guardrails. So obviously there's going to be argument from both sides of really of the hall, so to say, but and to possibly relevant points. But moving along, there are a couple of questions from Sham and Meera, and I'll just again try and integrate the two. How do you envision the role of humans in the future where AI has reached singularity, and how do you think society will need to adapt? We are obviously looking at a society which is going to be very, very different, probably in half a decade. I mean, forget about having to look into the crystal ball, right? So your thoughts around that, and what should we be doing, Jaspreet? I mean, just to kind of stay relevant in that sense.
Yeah, very interesting. Of late, one of my favorite phrases, okay, Vivek and Sham, and who was the other person? Sorry, Meera.
Sham and Meera, yeah, Meera Chavan and Sham Mukund.
Meera and Sham, yeah, this phrase, which actually my next article in Mint this Friday is going to be about, is how to be human in the age of AI. Okay, and this has several connotations. The jobs connotation, where we will need to discover the human parts of our jobs, and the automated parts will go away. For example, human in the age of AI is about the emotions that humans have and AI does not have. Okay.
Mm.
Humans in the age of AI is about how society, will form the right ways to work with these powerful new entrants into the society and uh, uh, almost absorb them as one more kind of human species. Humans in the age of AI is about how possibly, as Yuval Noah Harari says, the next Homo sapien after Homo sapien will be Homo Deus, which will be a human plus AI combined.
Yes.
And I kept on thinking, where have I heard this phrase, humans in the age of AI? And I realized it was probably the first book I read on AI. Almost more 2050. It was published probably 15 years back, around, just
Mhm.
after the financial crisis,
Mhm.
2008 crisis. And it was by Max Tegmark, Life 3.0, Being Human in the Age of AI. And so I started rereading that book, okay, to kind of see what he had said. But I think that will become the single most important question. How
Mm.
do we become human? And in fact, I believe, without doing too much work in it, which I've started doing, that AI will increase the humanity in us as we try and
Mm.
differentiate ourselves, okay, from these newer uh, semi beings coming in, which are not humans. Okay. And so I've given you a fairly philosophical answer, but it will be an interesting thing to talk about when I'm more ready. Okay, with
Right. Mm.
the with the answer.
Right. No, some lovely takes on that, and there are a couple of more very interesting questions. So I'll just read them out. One is from Aman Manushali. I think it's quite fascinating. It says, are there any potential scenarios, various potential scenarios for how the singularity could unfold, or is there more likely a dominant path? I think it's and it takes me to your thought about how organism, it kind of came up, let's say a single cell, ocean, amphibian, I mean, it's a very fascinating, very philosophical question, right? And maybe I'll just pause and let you answer this before I move to the next one.
I forget who, one of the great thinkers of AI, maybe Jeffrey Hinton, maybe one of these other guys, I forget who,
Mm.
has said that AGI or
Mm.
singularity will happen gradually and then suddenly.
Mm.
So it'll happen gradually as the primordial soup kind of figures itself out, etc. And
Mm.
then one day it'll just happen. Okay. That's
Mm.
one view of it. Okay.
Right.
My view of it has been slightly different. And I've actually written about it almost 6 or 7 years back. Okay. I call it the frog in the boiling water uh, uh, path. Okay,
Mm.
where that old fable of you put a frog in normal water and you gradually boil the water, and the frog keeps on getting more and more comfortable until the
Mm.
water boils and it dies, right? And frankly,
Mm.
that's what's happening to us. Think about it. Okay, we used to remember phone numbers, for example. Okay, now we
Right.
don't. You don't even remember your spouse's phone number.
Mm.
Okay, you used to remember directions from place A to place B.
Mm.
You don't remember any directions. AI has taken that over.
Yeah.
Okay. Google Maps is AI, hardcore AI. Okay. And it's taken that over. Maybe with driverless cars tomorrow, you will forget how to drive. Okay. We've forgotten how to shop in multiple places because now it's all about tapping on the thing. So my view is that, in a sense, AI or machines are taking us over gradually.
Mm.
And it's not like a one day you wake up in the morning and singularity has
Mm.
happened. Gradually your core human functions are being taken over one by one, and we are ceding control very happily.
Mm.
And so that's the other approach, which is not the suddenly thing, but the more gradual thing. And I think that's how, if it happens, it will happen.
And linking this to a question by Shaunak Pai, as we slowly see the control, what happens? What will humans do when we finally see all the control? What
So
do you think
Yuval
we're going to?
has a very dark view on this. Okay, and he
Mhm.
says all we will be doing is playing video games. Okay, which AI would have made for us. Okay, amazing video games while AI does all the factory work, all the all our office work, and basically we just get universal basic income. Okay,
Right.
every because of all the production value generated by AI gets distributed amongst human beings, and we are just sitting there. I mean, to me, that's a horror scenario. Even though
Mm.
some of us might think that that's great, you're not working, you're just
Mm.
playing, and you're doing whatever you want. Someone else is doing all the work. But it's not that way. Human beings cannot exist without a purpose. And that's the other thing of being human in the age of AI. AI doesn't need a
Right.
purpose. Okay.
That's right.
We need a purpose. We need a purpose to live. Otherwise, we might as well not live. And if the purpose gets taken away, I don't think we'll ever let purpose go away. Okay. And so I do think that if we do it right, I think that we will severely demarcate things which AI can do and things which it cannot do. In fact, Life 3.0, which I've started reading again, as I told you, talks of
Hmm.
this big machine called Prometheus, okay,
Yeah.
being built by the Omegas, which are
Mm.
human beings. And how Omegas still keep certain things for themselves, okay, to the challenge. They want to make money or they want to do whatever, okay, the challenge. And so, I mean, it, I think the Harari world is a dystopian world,
Yeah.
okay, where this would happen. I hope that that never happens,
Yeah.
but at least I hope I'm not alive by the time that happens.
Yeah. I'm just wondering which question and which angle to pick up next, because this has just got so many, folks that have opened up here as you talk about this. But
Maybe
I'll just
no, please
sorry.
ask, and if there's interest, I think maybe we should do another one on because
Yeah.
singularity and it's too small to be captured in 30
Yeah.
minutes. Okay.
Absolutely. We should probably expand the scope next time to talk about singularity and consciousness, because that itself has so many ramifications. But there's a very interesting question here from Brian. He says, on a personal note, Jaspreet, what aspect of AI and singularity excites you the most? And of course, you've talked about your concerns, but what do you think really excites you? Let's try and shift to a more positive view.
You know what excites me the most? So here's the deal, Brian. I've always feared, and the fear is still true, that AI is a centralizing technology. Unlike blockchain, which I used to get very excited about, blockchain, I was never excited about the technology. Most people, including me, didn't understand half the technology. Okay, but I used to be very excited by, and still I'm excited by the philosophy. It was a decentralizing technology, it was a democratizing, it was a distributive technology. That's why it was called the distributed ledger. Okay. AI, on the other hand, is a concentrative technology. The rich get richer, the more big get bigger, the most powerful get more powerful, and that's why you see the big techs basically control AI, and they're getting richer and richer, trillions of dollars, etc., etc. But what has excited me is comes from a quote which many have, but let me use a Gartner quote, which says that AI is not just a technology or a trend. It is a fundamental shift in the way humans and machines work with each other or interact. And that, AI, especially generative AI, has the power to make each one of us a software programmer. Now, coding was the new English. Now, English is the new coding. Satya Nadella
Yeah.
says that so far we had to learn the language of computers. Now computers have to learn our language. What this means
Mm.
is that, computer programmers were the richest and the most powerful people and still are in the recent times. Okay, a handful of human beings, mostly white, mostly male, mostly young, mostly in the western coast of the United States, were basically controlling the world.
Mm.
Okay, because they could talk to machines, they could make machines do stuff. But now, with generative AI and so-called prompts and prompt engineering, and as it develops, pretty much we can have 8 billion programmers and unleash the creativity of 8 billion people, unleash the building skills of 8 billion people, theoretically. And that's what frankly excites me the most.
And Jaspreet, to your mind, I mean, do you think we've seen glimpses of AGI? There is obviously this talk about Q star, that there is this whole controversy around that perhaps being the reason for the whole ousting of Sam Altman. He was not being apparently truthful about the capabilities of Q star. We obviously you talked about Sebastian Lubek's paper Sparks of AGI. I think to an extent, I think you mentioned it was debunked later on. And then, there was this talk about Cloud 3 lately, just kind of giving a sense of sentience, being aware. Now, was it a simulation? Was it genuinely being aware? What are your thoughts? Do you think we have started to see some glimpses, of what
No,
could eventually,
it goes back to where we started, Vivek. What's the definition?
yeah.
Okay. Okay. So I mean, is the definition just intelligence in doing a particular mathematical task, which was what the Q star thing was? Okay. Or is it, doing the 4 or 5 things that Sparks of AGI did? Okay. Or is it like far more general than that? Does it also have to include doing things physically? Okay. Because you can't just, you can have intelligence, but if you still can't hold a pencil, then what's the point? Okay.
Right.
Or to do something. Okay. So you could just be in a box and be super intelligent, but you might not still be able to do anything. Okay.
Right. Right.
So what's the definition? So if the definition is not clear, then, it's very difficult to answer that question. Has the Turing test been passed? Yes, I believe so. Okay.
Absolutely.
If that's the definition, yes, I believe so. And there are thinkers and scientists far greater than me who are unable to answer this question. Okay, the man I revere the most, which is Jeffrey Hinton, okay, now has always said that no, it's never going to happen, or it's going to happen in 100 years. But now he says that the probability of it happening in less than 5 years is non-zero. Okay, so very engineering words. Okay, so if these guys think so, then maybe yes. Okay, but I don't even know if I don't think any of us will even recognize AGI if it's staring at us in the face, because we don't know what the definition of
that is true. In fact, a very interesting definition that I came across about AGI, and I can't recollect the computer scientist's name, but he talked about the fact that to his mind, he said the Turing test for the AGI would be give it $100,000, give it, let's say, 3 months, and say turn this around into $1 million. I don't know if you recollect the name of this.
No, not the name, but I recollect. And in fact, maybe it's Max Tegmark, because the Life 3.0 kind of talks about, how to convert certain amount of money to certain more amount of money.
Right. Yeah, because, I think the whole idea is about really using ingenuity, really understanding the society, and of course, finally coming down to computation and stuff like that. So that's really what's going to be. All of this conversation, Jaspreet, and also to kind of, what should I say? For the first time, I think in my conversation with you, I've seen sparks of cynicism and skepticism, around this whole AGI, because in all my conversation with you, you've been such an, what should I say, long on AI. I think probably for the first time it kind of came out. And I think it reminds me of this thing in Carl Sagan's, talk somewhere, where he said that, listen, for so many years, the SETI, the search for extraterrestrial intelligence, has been like, beaming, kind of not beaming, actually listening in. And then, of course, we've been sending out all these voyagers with all these, directions towards where we lie in this, this pale dot, right? The blue pale dot, where it lies in the solar system, right? With all the directions. And it says, what if tomorrow some super intelligent being were actually able to kind of, come across, the Voyager 1, they actually retrieve this, the directions, and then finally we wake up one morning to see, these huge spaceships, really, on the horizon, or let's say landing on Earth. He said, who amongst the citizens of Earth would we really be qualified to go and engage with them, And I think that's really, the big question that I think you kind of talked, that's my takeaway, right? I mean, we really, at this point in time, seem to be at the mercy of some of these boys with lots of money, with lots of power. And I think they apparently have decided that they're going to speak on behalf of civilization, right? As and when AGI comes about, right? So any closing thoughts on that, Jaspreet?
Well, I was going to answer Elon Musk. Okay. Obviously. Okay. Who's going to talk now? Well, yes, you're right. The pale blue dot thing that you talked about. Also, frankly, and it goes back to your last question also, maybe there are aliens walking amongst us. How do we know?
Yeah.
They are super intelligent. They have disguised themselves as us. Maybe one of them is Elon Musk. He would certainly like to believe that he's an alien. If I was to have picked an alien, I think Alex von Neumann was an alien. He was so intelligent. He did so many things. I don't think any carbon-based biological human being could have done that. Okay. And so, maybe they walk amongst us as and we would never know. And similarly, there could be AGI, which is already there, therefore, but we can't recognize it because we don't know what to look for. Okay. And we really don't know what to look for. There is no globally accepted way to figure out or define and figure out, okay, fine, AGI achieved. The Turing test
Right.
was the one. After that, yeah, sure, there are all these other ones that you said.
Mm.
So yeah, it's as another alien called Confucius said many years back, we live in interesting times.
No, I think Jaspreet, this was wonderful, and I think we could have just gone on, and I think the community really loved it. I think the chat was lit with so many questions. I think couldn't do justice, couldn't pick them all up. If you have some time, do visit the community and maybe respond to the people out there.
Yeah, I'm very bad at that because I've got fat thumbs. But I will try. But you know what? I really have an idea, Vivek, and this is for the community also. Let's kind of
Sure.
follow. Let's kind of do another next week. Let's continue this, and maybe we should
Yes.
start with some of the questions that the people have asked and we've left unanswered, because that will be
Absolutely.
those
Yeah.
are the questions which I also enjoy the most.
Right.
And let's kind of do that because this topic we can have so many other things
Yeah.
which we can.
So many different takes on this. Absolutely. No, so as always, Jaspreet, this was a fantastic session. Really enjoyed a chat after a gap of a week. And I think let's pick this up, so we'll have the team go through it. Let's pick up the questions, maybe have the community drop some more questions in so that next time we can, really try and address all
Yeah,
of them. Right?
I'll ask people on the community to drop more questions also. Maybe we should just ask them. Let's kind of, it's almost like becomes like an AMA kind of thing.
Right.
Okay.
Absolutely. All right, Jaspreet. Thanks so much. Thanks, Sonia. Have a wonderful evening.
This very much. Thank you very much. And look forward to chat again.
All right. Have a good one. Bye-bye.